A man buried one of the most desirable Porsches ever made in a concrete vault underground. He was convinced it would emerge decades later worth a fortune. What they found when they opened it, nobody saw coming. No other Porsche captures the imagination of collectors quite like the Speedster. Unveiled in late 1954, it was Porsche's answer to the American hunger for a stripped-down, pure driving machine. Only about 4,000 Speedsters ever rolled out of Stuttgart, making them rare even in their own era. The car's defining features, a low, raked windshield, bucket seats, and a minimalist interior, were not just stylistic flourishes, but deliberate engineering choices to save weight and sharpen performance. At just around 1,800 pounds, the Speedster was lighter than its coupe siblings, and its air-cooled flat 4 engine delivered a lively, unmistakable sound that became its signature on both street and track. The Speedster's reputation was forged in competition. Club racers in California and across the U.S. regularly flocked to the model for its nimble handling and reliability. In 1956, John Stinson drove a Speedster to the SCCA Modified Championship, and the car's presence was felt at events like the 24-hour Daytona. Yet it wasn't just the racetrack that gave the Speedster its mythic status. Hollywood icons, James Dean, Steve McQueen, Marlon Brando, chose the Speedster as their personal statement, cementing its place in American pop culture. The car's silhouette appeared in films and magazine spreads, fueling a collector's dream that has only grown stronger with time. Today, the market reflects this reverence. Auction records show unrestored examples fetching $300,000, while pristine, matching numbers, Speedsters routinely command $600,000 or more. Provenance, originality, and even the story behind each car can push values higher still. For collectors, the Speedster is more than a machine. It's a symbol of purity, rebellion, and the enduring allure of a legend built on speed and scarcity. Byron Price's fascination with preservation ran deeper than most collectors. In 1978, he sat at his kitchen table drafting a charter that would define the fate of his Porsche 356 Speedster for a full generation. The document, handwritten and notarized, spelled out a 35-year entombment, no exceptions, no early openings. Price's background as a museum director shaped every clause. He had spent years curating exhibits and safeguarding artifacts, convinced that true value lay not just in rarity or condition, but in the act of stewardship itself. His salary was modest, never more than $62,000 a year, yet he treated the Speedster as both a cultural artifact and a financial hedge, echoing the inflation-wary investment logic of the late 1970s. The charter's language was precise. The document stated that the vehicle, accompanied by original factory documentation, shall remain sealed for 35 years, after which the vault may be opened by any descendant of the undersigned upon presentation of a notarized request and payment of a nominal excavation fee covering labor and preservation services. Price filed this with the Tulsa County Clerk, ensuring the countdown would be a matter of public record. The fixed term was more than a legal formality. It was a statement of faith in the future and in the idea that preservation could outpace decay. In the context of Cold War anxieties and a nationwide surge in time capsule projects, Price's decision felt both personal and emblematic. He was not just burying a car, he was locking away a piece of American optimism, betting that the world to come would value what he had chosen to protect. With the charter signed and sealed, the clock began ticking toward a date no one could predict with certainty, July 4th, 2013, when the vault would finally give up its secret. A humid morning in August 1978, Byron Price's Tulsa yard felt more like a construction site than a collector's dream. Workers lowered the Porsche 356 Speedster into a freshly excavated pit, its blue paint dulled by layers of dust and anticipation. The vault itself was a feat of backyard engineering, with reinforced concrete walls 4 inches thick, lined with a grid of steel rebar. Price, visible in grainy home movie footage, supervised every detail. He insisted on wrapping the car in multiple layers of plastic sheeting, each fold carefully taped to keep out moisture. A wooden crate followed, packed with factory documents, a handwritten log, and a sealed envelope meant for future eyes only. As the car settled into its concrete cradle, Price placed the final paperwork on the hood, a symbolic gesture captured in a single, unsteady frame. The chamber's lid, a 6-inch slab of reinforced concrete, was hoisted into position. Instead of a watertight gasket, workers used a simple bead of caulk and a row of steel bolts. The tightening of each bolt echoed in the still air, a ritual meant to guarantee security, but offering little real protection against time and Oklahoma weather. No secondary drainage, no backup seal, just cold optimism and the hope that plastic wrap and concrete would outlast the elements. With the last bolt turned, the vault became a sealed time capsule, its contents invisible, its fate left to decades of silence underground. Price lingered for a moment, hand resting on the concrete, before turning away. The chamber was closed, its promise of preservation already at odds with the fragility of its design. Stories about the buried Speedster began to ripple through the collector world almost as soon as the last bolt was tightened on the vault. In the absence of proof, rumor filled the gaps. Club newsletters speculated about the car's fate, while hobby magazines from the late 1980s ran features with headlines like Tulsa's Automotive Holy Grail and The Perfect Porsche, Sealed for the Future. The myth only grew with each retelling. Some said the car would emerge flawless, its paint untouched by time, its engine ready to fire with a turn of the key. Others imagined a lost work of art, preserved better than any barn find. By the late 1990s, the story had taken on a life of its own in online forums. Posts on the early 356 Registry and Porsche Club of America message boards debated the burial's wisdom. One comment from 2003 read, "If that vault worked, it's the find of the century." Another called it the last unopened Speedster. The car's nickname, Holy Grail, became shorthand for a fantasy of perfect preservation. With each passing year, expectations climbed. Some collectors even speculated that the car's value would eclipse auction records, simply because no other Speedster could claim such a story. Auction houses began referencing the Tulsa vault in their catalogs, using it as a benchmark for what a truly original, unrestored car might be worth. Magazine clippings and forum screenshots circulated, adding fuel to the anticipation. By 2013, the car had become more than a vehicle. It was a legend, its fate a source of collective suspense. The countdown to the opening was no longer just about a car, it was about whether belief in the perfect survivor could stand up to reality. On the morning of July 4th, 2013, a crowd pressed in close as the final bolts on the concrete lid were wrenched loose. For a moment, nothing moved, just the weight of 35 years of speculation hanging in the air. Then, with a grinding lift, the slab rose away, and the vault's secret was laid bare. A rush of muddy water burst from the chamber, splashing over boots and soaking the grass. Eyewitnesses remember the sharp metallic smell and the stunned silence that followed. In that first, breathless instant, all the hopes of a preserved time capsule seemed to dissolve. Gasps rippled through the crowd as the Porsche emerged from its tomb, not as a gleaming survivor, but as a battered relic. The paint had faded to a ghostly sheen, streaked with rust and streaks of algae. Upholstery floated in stagnant pools. One bystander whispered, "It looks like something from a shipwreck." Cameras flashed, but no one spoke above a murmur. The legend of perfect preservation had collided in real time with the reality of Oklahoma groundwater and the limits of human optimism. Restorers wasted no time in diagnosing what went wrong inside the vault. The concrete chamber, though sturdy, was never truly sealed. Along the perimeter where the lid met the walls, the absence of a proper gasket left only a thin bead of caulk to block out moisture. Over 35 Oklahoma summers and winters, groundwater found its way through every seam. Humidity built up inside the vault, condensing against the plastic sheeting and pooling beneath the car. With no drainage or ventilation, the environment became a slow-motion trap for corrosion. Steel panels blistered, the floor pans dissolved, and the engine seized in place. Upholstery turned to pulp. What should have been a pristine time capsule became a case study in how even the smallest oversight, a missing gasket, and a failed seam can undo the best intentions of preservation. Auction specialists examining the aftermath described the car as a relic of hope and hubris. Yet, when the Speedster crossed the block later that year, the bidding told a different story. Despite the damage, and perhaps because of it, the car's legend drove the final sale price to nearly $380,000. In the end, it was the saga, the burial, the anticipation, the flawed rescue that collectors paid for, not just the battered steel and faded paint. Today, collectors chase perfection, yet this car's battered shell, forged by decades underground, fetches a fortune because of its myth, not despite it. In the end, stories outlast steel. The real value lies not in preservation, but in the legends we bury and unearth. What's your take?